Welcome to Budget Outlaws. I'm driving right now, so I can't pay much attention to you. However, you can pay a lot of attention to me. And unfortunately, I did not make a intro for this video. But today we're going to be going over part 2 of the rear firewall install. Essentially, the first part of this video is going to be in regards to how I mounted the surrounding or mounting points for the firewall. And then the second part, we're going over to Chris's shop, adding some beautification markings to the stampings that he did. And then we'll install them and see how they look. They look pretty good. So the basis of design here is that we're going to have the main two sheets of metal that are going to cover this. But we have to have something for it to essentially bolt to. We're going to have this as the base, and then we're going to have another similar thickness piece of metal all the way up here, all the way around. The back's going to either bolt to this, or I'm going to incorporate this into the back. And then there will be a separate bolt right here just to kind of make this connection. What I'm contemplating, and the reason why I'm contemplating that is because that would allow me to like take off this valve cover, take off the head without having to do major work here. I can have this whole entire piece removed. So that's what I'm considering. Haven't made a final, decision on that, but we're going to figure out from there. And then also it'll attach up here, basically bolt down through here. So that's the design at this point, and it is fluid and subject to change. So let's get going and see what the car tells us to do. So we have this basically just bolted in for now, but we're going to weld it. Make sure that this is all nice and pulled up as much as possible, and then we'll seam seal it and probably use some kind of similar design aesthetic to this, just so that it looks roughly about the same. So the next thing I have to do is locate this piece, which, as you can see, we've got quite an overhang, which is basically what we anticipated. But whenever it gets pushed up against here, then that overhang is no longer there, or at least to a specific degree. What's happening is that this is getting pulled back or sucked back away from being flat. So what I've decided I want to do is I want to cut this off and incorporate that into this lip, which would allow me to take this piece off, and if I needed to, I could pull the head off or pull something off, and not have to worry about this. That's a lot more room. That's rather nice. Yeah, that's what I want. And then this be like that. Now we just have to check and see what kind of room issues we have with doing that. So let's look on the back side. Alright, that's pretty close to the valve cover, and that is touching the regulator. So we'll have to do something there. Now we're back to it being straight. It's a lot closer to there, which is kind of what we were looking at. Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. So I've gone ahead and clamped this in position so it doesn't move while I'm going through and marking off the relief that I want to cut. Yeah, I think this is going to be good. So I decided to give myself a little bit of room. This is what the notch looks like as my fat thumb for reference. Something like that. Probably make these corners a little bit nicer and triangulate it so it doesn't look like it's just a square box. But gives us the room we're looking for here around the regulator and the fuel line. Only problem is we're still pretty close to there. So I know that's an emboss. I can definitely just file it off, which I might just do. Another concern of mine was this area right here is where the fuel line is. I decided I'm just going to hit it with a hammer just to kind of push this up, and then I'm going to shape the cover piece. So I'm going to and give it a whack. Nice. All right, that's much better. Now we don't have such a tight clearance to this fuel line. I definitely don't want to cut it, even though it is a nice braided AN line. But there we go. I like that. Now all we'll have to do is just kind of grind that around, and then it won't be such a big a deal. I like it. So kind of as expected, putting a lot of heat into that as well as bumping that out, put a curve in this. So I don't have a shrinker, because that's kind of what we need to do. So I'll have to figure out another way of bending this down. So instead of trying to shrink it, I'm just going to try and bend it flat. It's probably going to oil can on me, but do this in small steps and just kind of see what happens. That's getting there. See? Okay, that's much better. You can see we're much tighter. So the next challenge that I needed to face was recreating this lip, because we didn't have it on this piece. Now we probably could have bent it, but we didn't have the forethought of actually doing that. Plus, this is slightly curved, and that would have made that impossible to do. So what I've got here is, this is a spare from actually one of Chris's cars that we cut probably a year and a half ago. But I've gone ahead and just trimmed it off to just about there. And we have it just placed on for now. And you can see that, yeah, that's the way it should be. Oddly enough, this was cut exactly the same length as this, so I didn't even trim it off. And it looks like it's the same place. So that will work. As we can see, that matches up. It's just slightly up because it's sitting on it. But what we're gonna do is I'm going to cut it off wherever, well, I'm debating right now. I'm debating cutting it in line here, or debating cutting in line here and having it match up right here. I think I want to do it that way so that I can have a bolt here, not a bolt through where the target top mounts. So that's kind of the thoughts that I have right now. This is not going to be integrated. I will like Bondo this seam or weld it and grind it, whatever. But I am planning on it basically sitting, and I have no problem with that. I don't need it to be perfect. That's not the way I build cars. I don't build cars perfect, but I build cars so that they have a function and a little bit of form. So I think I'm going to go like 1 inch inboard and then cut and then cut, and the same thing, 1 inch inboard and cut. That's kind of why I left some room whenever I originally cut that. So let's just see what it looks like. Okay, so we basically have this in place for now. As you can see, we cut back on the top blue piece. It'll make it fit, and yeah, made sure that they're basically even on both sides on the red, or the orange piece. And there we go. I like it. It looks pretty clean. All right, now we have some CAD templates, cardboard aided design. I did not come up with that term. And I think that's what we're gonna go with. And then on top of this, or from here, there'll be like a little shelf here, and we'll screw it down from there. I like it. Alright, well, I think I mocked this side up. There's definitely a gap there, but I've got no problem with those little gaps because I will fill them in. Kind of like we did over there. But overall, I think it kind of finishes that up nice. So, I'll pull this piece out. See, there's a pretty large lip here, and this will be where it kind of bolts in through here, making sure that this doesn't move. And we got the other side done. It's gonna get pulled up just a little bit. There's a little bit of gap, obviously, but it works. That's gonna be nice. Yeah. So here it is laying on top, just to give us a nice even angle. I can see they're roughly about the same angle, which is nice. Let's try and go for that, and it was successful. So obviously this is gonna go underneath. So this is a new one for me. I ran out of my 7525 and I wanted to keep going on my project, so I threw in a spool of flux core. I don't weld with flux core much, but I know what I'm doing generally. However, this happened. And I don't know if I'm gonna be able to catch it on, yeah, you can kind of see it there. But essentially, the wire split. There, you can see it. It's split right there. And versus, like, that's the normal wire. Let me see if I can find a spot where it actually splits. Right there. You can see it splitting. I've never seen this happen. There was an electrical surge, essentially, that went through the wire and it stopped. And I went, okay, something's wrong here. And so then I decided to pull out the wire, and this is what I found. Wow. I'm here today with my good friend Chris, and we're going to finish off my rear firewall. So everything is essentially done and ready to go in, except for the fact that we want to do some aesthetics and some strengthening. So we have our upper piece here, as well as our lower piece here. And what we want to essentially do is stamp these sections here with some recesses that allow for some strength as well as some cosmetics. And yeah, we're gonna get into that today.
What I've done with these panel stamps is come up with, I didn't come up with it, it's pretty straightforward, but you had specified the dimensions of the panel stamps, essentially trying to mimic the stampings that are in the floor of the 914 trunk anyway. So the way I approach this is we take some time and we dimension the panels that we're going to cut here on the plasma table to match the size of the panels that we're going to be stamping. So when you go to align the dies, you just kind of get all the edges put together, and then we know that the stamps are going to go into the right place, male to female, because you can't see it to align it because you're stamping through the entire panel. So you have to have a way to fixture everything to make sure you get it aligned correctly. And so the way I do it, I don't know if you can see this on the video, but if you were to zoom in, you can see that there's what will essentially turn into the female part of the die is having the male part of the die removed from it, and then that gap we work out to calculate based on the material thickness of the panel we're stamping and how steep we want the edges of those stamps. Obviously, if you had a much wider gap, the ramp for the edge of the stamp would be shallower, and we want something that looks the way we want it to look. This isn't an exact science. It's not like I have it all worked out mathematically. I've just played with it and I like the way it looked. So this bottom piece that we're going to cut, I want to try this first one. This is a simpler one because it's a flat panel where the top one has, we've already stretched the edge, so it's got a bit of a curve into it that we're going to have to deal with. So we're going to go ahead and just cut this lower panel first. This is the CAD system that I use. It's called QCAD. It's a free download. Really great little 2D product. And then I've got an application that turns that drawing into G code that the plasma table runs. I won't take you through all that. But now we go ahead and fire up the plasma table. And I've already got the material positioned. In fact, let me just take some extra time here and get a good ground going. And this is the system that's going to cut the panel. So the first thing, I'm just going to walk through my standard operation to get the machine set up. First, we home everything so that the machine knows where everything is. Zero that out so it knows where stuff is on the table. And you can see in this picture, it knows there's a drawing on the table and it knows where its torch is. But you can see that the material isn't anywhere near that corner of the table. So now what we do is we zero out, we're going to zero out the Z-axis so it knows where the metal is from a height perspective. So we zero that out. Then we position the torch where we want it to cut, where we want the start to cut, or the cut to start rather, and now we zero X and Y. And here you can see, now you can see the outline of the table, and you can see that the torch is now where it thinks it is, and it's sitting over metal. It actually doesn't ever know that there's material there until it starts to try to cut, and then it'll run into it. And I think we are all set. So let's go ahead and cut this piece. Now that's the male part of the die, and now it's cutting the reveal, which is the opening in the female part of the die. And if you walk and zoom in, you can see the curve it's like. One cut.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I just realized I made a pretty major error.
You didn't round those?
No, I didn't cut positioning marks in those.
Oh.
So to get those aligned on the main panel. So we may choose to come back, and the good news is if I just I can redraw. Well, I'll show you what I'll do later. Let's look and see how well this matched. We were aiming for this radius to this radius.
That looks good.
And we were aiming for, it's a little bit wider.
That's fine.
And we know that this line that was your drawing line, we know that that's not what we were expecting because we decided to make it symmetrical from the center line. And if you look over here, these are almost exactly where, and I think measurements aside, inaccuracies of measurements aside, this is pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's going to be great.
There, just rivet that on there. So if the torch senses voltage and raises up, your cut is happening on a curved part of the plasma arc. And you get a bevel this way. And if the torch is too low, you get an undercut, right? I mean, it literally does that. And so, and it's a thing with plasma tables. Guys are constantly like cutting holes. It's like, my holes are beveled. Yes, they are. Okay.
So tell me the story on this.
This
fillet
is,
rod.
I think this is a funny car rod. It's a serious like drag car rod. Why do I have it? Because they use these for 11 runs, not 12. They've proved that over and over again. So this is an 11-run rod that they simply chuck.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I need that. Because it goes along
Oh gosh.
with my 2-stroke diesel submarine engine valve towel holder. Wow. That's a real live actual part out of a submarine diesel. Yeah.
Wow. That is too cool. That is too cool. Oh my, that's heavy. I'm the hot glue gun master.
Cover?
Mm-hmm.
Embarrassingly messy. Let's do a check. Dude!
That looks good.
Make sure you don't weld it to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Cover. And all we want is just to have it hold on there.
Mm-hmm.
So what we've done is we took our male backing plate, which if you'll recall, all we did was draw the register holes in. And we took the male component of the die that was cut out of what now turns into the female of the stamp, located those on their registration holes, and just welded them at the edge in a couple little spots, because it's all it has to do is hold it in place, from shifting. And then we do a quick eyeball alignment check of gaps, and considering this is handmade, well, parts of it anyway, that there is a stamping die, male and female set, ready to be put to use. So let's put it to use, shall we?
Yes.
The fun part is you're not paying attention and you do that, right? So pay attention, right?
Got it.
So we'll start with the stamp right here. So we'll load this in. And that's the other thing is you want to make sure
That's off.
that it's, you want to make sure that can't, we're not going to go so far that anything's at risk, but you can see that this thing needs to be perfectly set so it doesn't take that radius out. We got lucky on that, eh? So now we look here and we see we're dead up against that, so that's safe. This can be pulled over and the vice grips are totally off. Fire up the bad boy.
need to be on the other side?
I think it's okay for a second. I just turn it around.
Oh, okay.
Nope, didn't get that corner. That's the nice thing about this process is you can see. Right? Well, now, like I mentioned, it's locked in. Right? Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so let's do this. Miss this corner. So we just want to position it. And you can see all you need to do is cover the area. You don't have to worry about too much.
Well, the stamping's great.
Oh, see? And then we had some flaws. We got a stamping.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
That's one of the weld spots. So that you're going to have to probably Bondo that.
That's fine.
It also did this,
Well,
which is the result of this edge. I'm going to see if I can solve that problem for you.
okay.
But I mean, just for...
Yeah.
It doesn't only look about a bajillion times better. I mean, it's like, And yeah, so it oil canned this, but I suspect...
I think you might have hit it on this side once.
No, because it's...
No?
When you stamp it, it absolutely pulls material from some places. Now, the good news about this is once you put it into the car,
Yeah.
you can bolt it down. It's like this. Right? This is not ideal, obviously, but
Yeah.
and I'm not. In all seriousness, it's sort of like, it's. I'm trying to demonstrate. I'm not pushing down that hard and just.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I can't help but flaws. Right? That corner is not great, and you can see that the ramp here compared to how steep it is right here.
Yeah.
That's out of position a little bit. But again, I think once you paint it, now this is the other thing. Again, I personally, stone chip and trunk paint are your friend, right? You can hide a lot of these little flaws.
Yeah.
The other side of this is it's homemade, it's hand built, it's not perfect,
That's...
you know?
Yeah.
But it looks freaking awesome. Let's compare it to factory. It's never going to be mistaken for factory, although I think if you look at those lines,
Yeah.
that looks really good. I think that looks really good.
I like it.
And only about a million times, plain panels. And this is that same thing I was talking about. No crazy shapes. It fits with the look of the car. people are going to be like, anybody that knows 914s is going to look at that and go, where did you get that?
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten people have asked me questions about some of the parts I've made, some of the panels. One guy's like, hey, your radiator bulkhead pass-through for your, where did you buy that? I'm like, yeah, no, I made it.
Yeah.
This looks really good.
Yeah.
This looks really good. These edges are preventing the material from being able to be pulled in. So even though we stamped it here, this hard edge is saying, I'm not going to give you anything. You can take it from as far in as you can go, but I can't give you, like, strictly speaking, if I measured down to the nth degree, any one of my panels, they're smaller. It's somehow smaller. This is not allowing, this is my story for now. You can make them work.
Okay, so we're back at home and I have fit these panels in. They went in pretty easily. There is a little bit of an oil canning issue, but as you can see, even with just a couple of screws, it's really not an issue. I'm not going to worry about it at all. We'll finish up these panels in regards to some basic body work and paint and primer, and call it a day. I'm really happy with the way these turned out. Really happy with the way these turned out. It lines up really well with these indentations, and now we weren't going for an absolutely factory appearance with it. We were going for kind of akin to factory, but also a custom look. And that's exactly what we got. I'm very, very happy. So thanks again to Chris for all his hard work. Again, he did 99% of this, and I don't know what I would do without him. So stay tuned. We're going to take this car to WCR in the next couple of weeks, and it's going to be an absolute blast. We're also going to take the white car and finally probably going to get these two cars on the road for a true drive together. Can't wait. We'll see you then.